It is really fascinating how all these steps lead to the goal of liberation, isn't it, Disha?
It is.
Talking about the steps, the next step in Ashtanga Yoga is Pranayama. So, the essential difference between Pranayama and Asana is that a slight error while performing an asana does not really have great consequences, but that is not the case with Pranayama.
Oh, I see. But what exactly is pranayam? Isn't it just breathing? I'm breathing right now. Doesn't that mean I'm practicing pranayam even right now?
You see, Disha, Pranayama does involve breathing but in a controlled manner. So, let us first see what is Pranayama. Patanjali talks about pranayama in 49th verse of 2nd chapter of Yoga Sutra as a conscious change in the pace of breathing. Pranayama consists of Shvasa, Prashvasa and Gati Vichheda, which is inhalation, exhalation and change of pace. When we do shallow breathing, there are negative effects on our health. I feel all of these are signals given by the body that we are going too fast and we need to slow down a bit. So we should take these signals seriously and work on them. And a simple solution to all of that is simply doing pranayama. It is found that an individual has 15 breaths per minute, and pranayama usually consists of increasing or decreasing the number of breaths. So, Bhasrika is a kind of pranayama which involves increasing the number of breaths, but pranayama is generally understood to decrease the total number of breaths, because when we decrease our speed of breathing, it ensures that there is supply of oxygen to all the organs like lungs. Maharshi Vyasa has said that there is no sadhana as great as pranayama because it leads us to the quest of knowledge. Patanjali talks about 3 steps in pranayama, that is Puraka, Rechaka and Kumbhaka, which is Puraka means when inhalation is under control, Rechaka is when the process of exhalation is under control, and Kumbhaka when the process of retention is under control. Kumbhaka can be further classified as Antar Kumbhak, which is retention of breath after inhalation, and Bahya Kumbhak, which is retention of breath after exhalation. There is another type of pranayama which is Kevala Kumbhak, which is mere retention of breath.
All these seem like an easy process. So can anybody do this?
Not really, because they require practice and it is not possible for ordinary people like you and me to do them. The proportion of time allotted to these 3 steps is 1:4:2. So ideally, the speed of exhalation should be double the speed of inhalation, because when there is a decrease in the speed of exhalation, that ensures that the carbon dioxide from the body is completely thrown out. For example, Kapalbhati. In Kapalbhati, we inhale once and exhale multiple number of times.
I have heard about Kapalbhati. Are there any more types of pranayam?
Yes, there are. So, there are different kinds of pranayama for different purposes. I'll give you some examples. For example, there is Brahmari pranayama, which helps us to increase our concentration, or there is Shitali pranayama, which helps the body cool down when the body needs water, for example, after a heavy workout.
What are some other benefits of practicing pranayam?
Pranayama has benefits on physical as well as psychological level. So on the physical level, it helps us to overcome shallow breathing. There have been cases where people had contracted COVID, but pranayama has helped them to boost their immunity. And on the psychological level, it helps us when we are, in an emotionally vulnerable stage. It helps us to increase our concentration and attention. Pranayama has 2 consequences. The first one is that it helps us to destroy the cover of rajas and tamas on the chitta, and it helps us to achieve ekagra chitta. And the second consequence is that it leads us to the further step of Ashtanga Yoga, that is Pratyahara. But I don't really know what is Pratyahara. Do you, Disha?
Yes, as you mentioned, pranayam is the yogic practice of breath control. There is one more such practice which together constitutes for the preparation of dharana, which is Pratyahara, which is also mentioned in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, verse 2.54. So Pratyahara's etymology is that the word Pratyahara is a sandhi of 2 words, Prati adik ahara. Prati meaning back, away or against, and ahara meaning food, nutrition or something that you incorporate into yourselves from outside. So collectively Pratyahara means controlling or backing yourself away from the external influences, which likewise means withdrawal of the senses.
Okay, but how can we apply that to our daily lives?
Well, you can easily apply this to your daily life. Let me give you an example. When you first perceive an object, first that object comes in contact with your sense organs. Second, you are now aware of that object. And third, the awareness causes that object to be agreeable or disagreeable to your taste. If it agrees to your taste, then you develop attachment towards it. And if it disagrees to your taste, then you develop detachment towards it or aversion. And this is where Pratyahara comes in context. It tries to withdraw the senses from the object so that the subsequent awareness and attachment for the object does not rise. It withdraws the senses from the object. It withdraws the mind from the senses. The chitta, therefore, does not experience any outside distractions and the focus is shifted inwards. It is turning the senses to the original nature of the mind, which is the chitta. In the same way, Pratyahara is that transitional stage which is also a linking bridge to move from Bahiranga Yoga to the first stage of Antaranga Yoga, which is Dharana. Just as how you see a tortoise drawing its limbs, in the same way, a yogi has to practice Pratyahara in order to withdraw his senses.
Okay, but where does that further lead to?
Well, one develops absolute control over the indriyas, that is the sense organs, which is also mentioned in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra 2.55. It leads to overcoming mental impurities like hate, anger, greed, and many more other distractions.
Okay, so now I know how it is useful for a yogi. But how is it useful for students like you and me?
Yeah, it is. As you said, it is helpful for a yogi as it helps him attain his goal, which is liberation. It helps the students as students time and again wander off and zone out in their own tangents. In our daily lives, we often get attached to material objects and attracted to the worldly desires. It exhausts you mentally and also the physical powers you have within yourself. You become a slave to your senses, which is a regressive journey leading to an uncontrolled and misguided life. So here is where we try to embody Pratyahara so that we don't become slave to our senses but rise over them. So one should practice Pratyahara to control their distractions and focus on the bigger goals.